This is a video on winter sowing. It's not winter gardening. We're not actually fostering the growth of plants in the cold winter months. This is a method of sowing seeds outside to get a jump start on our spring gardening. The seeds will germinate on their own when the conditions are naturally right. So there's no need for an artificial conditions like we have in our indoor setups. And so there's no hardening off needed for these little seedlings. So this is the first time for me. Many gardeners rely upon this process. So there's lots of benefits. It's a hands-off one where nature is doing the work and the seed is germinating under its own conditions that are right for that particular seed. So it doesn't sound complicated and it sounds extremely easy. So there's little or no tending for us. And also it's less expensive because there's no need for grow lights, there's no need for heat mats, no need to find indoor space. Also, you don't need any extra pots to pot up your plants as they grow bigger inside. And it's definitely a time saver. So it sounds like a win-win to me. The only thing we need to do is to start it now when the outdoor temperatures, the nighttime temperatures are consistently below freezing. So let's go and let's start this procedure. Okay, what supplies do we need for winter sowing? Since this is my first time, I rely upon everybody else I've been listening to on YouTube. And it's a pretty standard number of requirements that you need. For instance, you need, in this case, these are either milk jugs or apple cider jugs. An opaque one or a clear one. I had no clear ones. You need jugs for that. You definitely need seeds. In this experiment that I'm doing, first time, I'm planting cold tolerant plants. I have some broccoli, some Chinese cabbage, some spinach, onions, kohlrabi, and butter crunch lettuce. So it's my first time, and so I'm starting with a tried and true things that I know are going to grow in the cold weather out in my garden. You're going to need markers. I've already labeled my markers. You're going to need packing tape or duct tape. There are people that love duct tape and use it all. There are people that don't love duct tape and use packing tape instead. I'm going to do a little bit of both and see how either one works for my setup. You're also going to need a potting soil. You're going to need a pre-moistened potting soil. Those seeds are going to want some moisture when they decide that it's time for them to start growing. So my mix, it's not the soilless seed starting mix, it's a potting mix. It's a good quality potting mix. I mixed it with probably about 25% compost because once those seedlings start growing and they get their first true leaves and they're starting to grow up 3, 4, or 5 inches tall within your container, they're going to need some nutrients. And you're not going to be able to supply those too well. So pre-moistened potting mix with perhaps a little bit of compost in it. All right, so let's get going and start planting. Okay, this is what we want our little mini greenhouse to look like. It's going to kind of be like a clamshell thing. You want to leave the hinge area here. Seems to be really good with milk jugs, etc. If you leave the handle and you leave the hinge right below the handle area. Leave probably about 1 inch from this, where the handle attaches, down to the bottom. So that seems to be just about enough, about 3 to 4 inches in depth here. I found that my little seed packets, oh, here's another thing you need. You need a marker. And if I didn't say, you also need labels. So permanent marker helps, I guess. I just line this up on the bottom and I draw a line here. As a gauge. Once you get to the handle, give yourself plenty of stopping area. I make a little vertical line to make me aware that I have to stop there. Anyway, so a couple more lines about there. Okay. So, very careful with your box cutter, or if you have scissors. Scissors are hard because you really need to start a hole right here. But you could have done that when you drilled the holes in the bottom. Anyway, so sharp blade, cut around. I think you really have to worry too much about being perfectly straight. I'm not on the line perfectly, but slowly when you get to the handle area. Okay, so there, I need to, it won't bend open, so I'm going to just give it a little bit more space. And there's the hinge. So this is what we need to start. I'm going to start before I do all of these. So let's, if you haven't drilled your holes by now, get the holes done first. Okay. Oh, pre-moisten. You don't want it sopping wet, but you want enough that the soil is going to kind of clump together a little bit. So when you squeeze it, it'll kind of hold a little bit together. You don't want it sopping wet. Okay, let's get a couple scoops full. Suggested that you don't fill it totally to the top. It might interfere a little bit when you go to tape this thing shut. So take it up to probably within an inch of the top. Okay. So press it down, not compact it thoroughly, but you don't want too many air spaces, air holes in your soil mix here. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is probably do this broccoli. Now, overseeding can always be a problem with this. Since this is, I'm just experimenting, I will be growing some indoor seedlings. But for this outdoor experiment, I think maybe I will do 5 or 6. So I'm going to make just a small little indent in my soil. Broccoli seeds are very small. Ooh, that's a lot. Isn't it amazing that such a tiny little seed will produce such a lovely, large, edible vegetable for us? Okay, I'm putting actually about 2 in every hole just to ensure germination. Okay, a little bit of soil on top. These are only supposed to be planted to a depth of a 1/2 inch, 1/4 to a 1/2, so it doesn't need too much. I'm going to press that down. And I'm going to wipe my hands off because I don't want this tape getting all dirty and not sticking to the container. Okay, so this was broccoli. In goes a marker because I want to know what's in here. Anyway, so close it up. Okay, this one I'm going to try with packing tape, packing tape. So run it around the outside of your container, closing up the sides. You have to do this in steps here. You want a nice seal. Sometimes it helps to do it in short little pieces to get that connection between the top and the bottom. And then I think I will give it one big straight piece around. There we go. So that seals it up nicely. And those broccoli plants are all ready to go outside. Unbelievably, but this looks like it works for many, many people. Now, we have a label on the inside, but it's always pretty important to label the outside because you can't always see what's in there. So you can write it on the tape here if you have a permanent marker, but I think I'm also going to write it up on top because when I group these all together, they're going to be, you know, side to side, and I won't really be able to see what is in each jug. So I'm not going to go ahead and do all these. I think this is the procedure. And this is ready to go outside. We have about a foot of snow outside, so I'm going to have to dig a space to put them in. Anywhere, as I understand, is a good place to put them. I think as it gets closer and closer to, you know, springtime, where they are going to start germinating, I'll put them on a south-facing wall or something, so they're going to get enough sunlight. Anyway. So I'll be back when I finished filling all of my containers to go outside. One thing I wanted to mention with my broccoli, kohlrabi, and the Chinese cabbage, I'm looking to get individual seedlings, so I don't want to mass spread the seeds in here and, you know, overseed them. So they're all getting, you know, kind of an individual treatment, you know, 4 or 5 seeds per jug. But what I am doing with, for instance, I have some more yellow onions that I'm going to grow. I am just going to spread those over the whole top because they're going to have to be transplanted. They'll tease out the roots, and I'll plant those in my garden as transplant in long rows, how I normally do. So I'm just going to broadcast those over the surface of the soil, and this is what I do for my indoor seeding also. Let's see. I might use up this whole container. So it's really, they are not hard to transplant. They don't seem to mind being pulled apart and planted that way. I'm going to sprinkle just a little bit. What I forgot to do with my broccoli, there you go, pat it down. You want good good contact with the soil. What I forgot to do with the broccoli is just give it an extra little watering. It helps cement that seed soil connection here. So just a little bit, not too much. You don't want it sopping wet. And then close it up. Oh, label it. There we go. Label it, important. And close it up and do that. So I forgot the watering part at the end. Forgive me. But you do that. Okay, I'll be back again. Okay, let's sum up this winter sowing. I did 6 varieties. I have kohlrabi, Chinese cabbage, broccoli, buttercrunch lettuce, spinach, and onions. All of these are, I'll be able to plant them before my last frost date. So they are cold crops, cold tolerant crops. And, but this gives them a boost on the season. This is an excellent procedure for people that don't have a lot of indoor space, you know, to start their seedlings indoors. And then they don't even have to go out to harden off because they're doing that right here in their little mini greenhouses. Anyway, so keep following me as I keep you posted on what's happening inside these containers and how it's going to work out for me this spring season. So if you haven't subscribed already, please do that. Give me a thumbs up. It's a good help. And share if you want to. And also if you want to ring that bell, I'll let you know when I have posted a new video. So thank you for following me. Thank you for watching. And I'll see you on the next video. Bye.